Welcome everybody, I am Niharika back with a new lesson for you. Today we are going to look at some polite ways to interrupt a conversation. Now there are so many times that we really need to interrupt a conversation, but then how do you do that? Because as kids, our mothers always taught us that, honey, do not interrupt when others are speaking. Very bad habit, remember? But now that we are grown-ups and we live in a pretty fast-paced real world, so if you interrupt in a right manner, it's not going to be offensive. But yes, you have to use the right phrases. You can't just say, oh, wait a minute, or you just can't say, be quiet, I didn't hear you, or hold on. These are completely wrong phrases that you would use to interrupt a conversation. Very rude. So now let's have a look at some very polite ways that you can use when you have to interrupt. The first one that I have for you, a very simple one that I'm sorry to interrupt, but so for example, you are in a family reunion, okay, or your family has come over for dinner and drinks, and maybe your uncles are in a very deep conversation. They're talking about politics, or they're talking about world, and they're constantly talking, okay, and it's very difficult for you to, talk to them or ask them something or even offer a drink. So how would you interrupt? Well, you would say, I'm sorry, uncle, to interrupt, but would you like to have another drink, or would you like to have a refill? Okay, so a very simple one wherein you just apologize that, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you like to? Okay, so this is the first phrase that you can use to interrupt people. The next one that I have for you is, I don't mean to intrude. So intrude means to interrupt. But when do you say that? Now, maybe you are talking to your boss, or maybe you are a bunch of team members who are talking about an important project, and maybe someone is constantly talking about, okay, these are the things that we need to do, we need to cover this up, we need to get on our targets, okay? So there is something that you would like to add. But you can't just say, hold on, wait a minute, I have something to say. That's rude. So you can say, I don't mean to intrude, but I have something to add. Or I don't mean to intrude, but these are also some things that we need to get done with. Okay, so it's a very polite way, and trust me, no one would be offended with this. Alright, so you can always use this phrase. Another one that I have for you is, excuse me, may I please interject? Now interject, or may I please add something? Okay, so either you can say, excuse me, may I please add something, or may I please interject? Again, when you are in a conference, or maybe you're in a meeting, or maybe you are with a bunch of friends and you're discussing about something and you really don't want to be rude by saying, hey, I have something to tell you. You can say, excuse me, may I please add, or may I please interject, okay? So this means you are asking for permission, okay? So it sounds really polite. And then the fourth one that I have for you is, while that is an important point, it's also important to add. Now, when can you use this? Well, you can use this when you are in a meeting, okay? And somebody is making a point and you really appreciate that. Maybe you really like what he just said, or you think that it's a great idea, but there's something that you also need to add. There's something in your mind and you just need a chance to talk about it. So rather than just jumping into the conversation, what you can do is you can say, well, while that is an important point, it's also important to add. So here you're appreciating what the other person is saying, but you are also trying to make your point, or tell them that what do you think about this? Okay, so these are a couple of ways, a couple of phrases that you can use to interrupt a conversation. Now let's have a look at some more ways. Now here I have some basic etiquette rules for you when you have to interrupt a conversation. So the first one is wait for a pause. Now I know when people are talking and they are incessant talkers, it gets difficult for us to interrupt. But you know, of course, they're not just going to go in one breath. So there will be a pause. So you just need to wait for that right pause. For example, your boss is talking, okay? Or maybe he is in a conference or y'all are in a meeting room and he's constantly talking about something and there's something really important that you have to talk it out and you really can't wait. So what you need to do is you need to wait for that right pause and be prepared to what you want to say, because that pause is just gonna be there for like few seconds, okay? It's just gonna last for like couple of seconds and then your boss starts talking again. So please do wait for that right pause and be prepared to what you want to say. All right? Next one that I have for you is raise your hand. Now raise your hand doesn't mean you go like this, like you keep raising your hand. Well, you just need to raise your hand. It is a non-speaking gesture, okay? It basically gives a signal that you have something to add or you have something to say. So be it a one-on-one conversation or be it in a group, be it in a meeting, when you're with your friends discussing something, rather than just being loud and expressing to what you want to say, hey, I have something to say, rather than doing that, you can always raise your hand, which gives them a signal that you have something to say and it's extremely polite. The other one that I have for you is note the tone of your voice. Now remember, interruptions can be at times objections. So it's important for you to note your tone of your voice, okay? Now you cannot be very rude, you cannot be very loud, but yes, you need to have that firm voice, okay? You need to be firm when you are interrupting. Now please remember, this doesn't mean that you scream or you are really loud or you just shout on top of your lungs. That's not what I mean. You need to have a firm, strong voice, okay? So that the person understands that you have something to say and something important to say, okay? The last one that I have for you is don't hover. Now what does that mean? Well, remember when we were kids, we used to just keep standing till our mommy and daddy finished talking and then we would make a point, okay? Or then we would ask something that we want. Like as I said before, that our mommies always said, honey, do not interrupt when others are speaking. So what we did as a child was we used to just keep standing or loitering around till the time your parents finished their conversation. But as adults, hovering could really appear childish. Imagine two important people are talking or discussing something important and you just keep standing there. And you're like, okay, you know, in your mind you're thinking, when are they gonna finish their discussion? I have something important to say. That's not gonna work. That's gonna be really rude or it would really appear very childish. So do not hover. Okay, so these are some basic rules that you need to follow and the phrases that we talked about, okay? So if you use them in a very gracious manner, interruption would not be rude, okay? So please go ahead, use this. Hope this lesson is helpful to you and I'll be back with a new lesson soon. Till then, you take care.